Hi guys, welcome back to Prophecy Unfolding. One of the most controversial scriptures or topics is this thing that happens in Genesis 6. Are the giants of Genesis 6 real? Were they giants? Were there giants at that time and after? And who are the sons of God that's spoken about in Genesis 6 also? Today I wanted to unpack this and really show you, biblically speaking, that the references are there. I want to go through them and show them why this is relevant today and why I feel today it's so important to understand what the enemy did before and what he's going to do in the coming future. Guys, if it's your first time here, you're so welcome. Guys, what I would ask you to do was watch the full lot in context, go through the scriptures that's quoted and see for yourself what God speaks through scripture is absolutely true. Enjoy this and I'll see you on the other side.
There were giants on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. Those were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown.
As we've seen there, guys, in Genesis 6, what a strong passage of scripture that is. I can actually understand why it would be quite controversial. It's a thought that many of us find hard to grasp, that something like this could possibly happen. That what we call the sons of God or the fallen angels would do something like this, leave their proper or first estate and come down into the daughters of men and produce an offspring. Is this biblically sound? Is this something that we should be looking at in terms of what's going to happen in terms of the end time signs? And I believe so. When we go straight into it, the first thing I'll point out, guys, the sons of God that's referenced here is a word called Benai Elohim in Hebrew. This word is used 3 times, this specific word, and we'll find 2 other times that it's mentioned, and you'll find it in Job, Job 1 verse 6 and Job chapter 2 verse 1. And here's what it says: Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. This is talking about a time way before, guys, you know, that the sons of God were there when they were presenting themselves to God, the same as Satan, the accuser, were there. And when we read further, we see in Job as well, it talks about the sons of God were there worshipping as God was creating the earth. I think that's in Job 42. It's there, guys. There's many passages that gives us these little references. But what I wanted to use specifically was the sons of God, the specific words Benai Elohim, which is used before. Specifically, this word is used for angels and not for what we call the seed of man actually there. But what I'll show you with some of the next scriptures that I'm going to kind of give you, guys, the names of what we call the giant clans, or what we believe these to be, and we can see it through scripture. And you'll have the likes of the Anakim, the Amims, the Rephaims, which is probably one of the more popular names, and the Zazimim. We'll also see some of the kind of giants coming up among the Amorites, the Amalekites, the Hittites, the Jebusites, the Canaanites, and also Philistine, which is another popular one. We'll all hear the story of David and Goliath. But where in scripture can we see more of this reference when it talks about the giants, guys? We'll see it in Genesis 14 verse 5. Have a listen to this.
In the 14th year, Kedorlaomer and the kings that were with him came and attacked the giants in Ashtaroth, Kernaim, the Zumzum in Ham, the Emem in Shava Kirathaim, the Horites in Mount Seir. They turned back and came to An Mishpat, that is Kadesh, and attacked all the country of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites who dwelt in Hezazon Tamar.
As you can clearly see there, guys, what we would call the Battle of the Kings there in Genesis, guys. that they were to face giants in those times also, and the specific word that's used is for giants, not giant in terms of legacy, but giant in stature. Also, guys, another really strong scripture which most of us probably know comes in Numbers, or what we would call the report of the spies, and their doom at the time. And when you kind of hear this, it's very hard to deny scripture, guys, especially when you're getting scripture upon scripture. Have a listen to this one and see for yourself exactly the report that they brought back kind of to Moses and all at that time about what they seen in the land that they were supposed to take. Have a listen to exactly what they seen.
The land through which we've gone into, spying it out, is a land that devours its inhabitants, and all the people whom we saw in it are men of great size. There also we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Enoch, and we became like grasshoppers in our own sight, and so we were in their sight.
What a report to bring back. Can you imagine being the spies going into this land, looking to see how futile the land is around them, but then they come across this vast people that are huge in stature, in size, and they looked and felt like grasshopper to this. And also, he says, I'm sure they thought we were grasshoppers also, which means they were physically big men, not a couple of inches or a foot or so bigger. They would have to be really, really big in order to feel like grasshoppers. They even said that they were giants, but also they were said they were the descendants of Enoch, which come from giants. And we see other scripture references here, and here's something God said also, and you'll find this, guys, what a scripture it is. It says this: "Hear, O Israel, you're crossing over the Jordan today to go into dispossess the nations greater and mightier than you, great cities fortified to heaven, people great and tall, the sons of Anakim, whom you know and whom you've heard of, who can stand before the sons of Anak." Even God was telling them that these guys had a big reputation. They were big warriors. No one could stand before them. It was showing it that giants were definitely there, and all around was so giant race, guys. You know, as we've laid that foundation, you know, it makes the kind of the scripture come alive when Jesus talks about in the days of Noah, what it'll be like in the days of Noah. And we see in Matthew 24 it says, "But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For in the days of Noah, just before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage till the day Noah entered the ark." Now when we look at this, why would God specifically say marrying and giving in marriage, etc, etc, etc? There's so many scriptures, guys, that really show us what exactly was going on. We also have references to extra biblical text like Enoch, and when we listen to Enoch here, guys, it's exactly like Genesis 6. Have a listen to this.
And it came to pass, when the children of men had multiplied in those days, were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters, and the angels, the children of heaven, saw and lusted after them, and said to one another, Come, let us choose wives from among the children of men, and begat us children.
As you can see, guys, it's exactly the same. Very, very parallel to what it says in Genesis. And I know people say, you know, well, you shouldn't really be using Enoch and these extra biblical texts. But guys, this book was actually used for a long time, up until a certain point. Some will disagree on exactly why, but they felt it wasn't really kind of relevant to have in the canon. But we can use the extra biblical text, especially Enoch, who's mentioned by others in scripture, guys, so we know that he is a reliable source. Some of it is hard to take in, I totally understand, but we have to know, when we put all this together and we see everything that's happened, even from the Old Testament now, guys, and this is a big statement that I'll make. A good friend of mine, Matt, who helped me with this, would see this fairly different to me. But when I look at what the vision of Nebuchadnezzar, guys, in Daniel, and I looked specifically at this, and I'm going to do one separate on this. Came back, told him what he dreamt, and then gave him the meaning. And obviously we know about kind of the kingdoms all the way down to the feet, and we see the mixture of iron and clay. Now this is where people have the opinions of what the iron and clay will be. To me, when we read it, guys, when you read in Daniel, And we see the word that's been used. Well, guys, the word that's been used there for when it says that they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. That actual word is zera, and when you look at that going from the Aramaic into the Hebrew, it means a sowing, seed, or offspring. So something is happening in that time period from the feet all the way to the toes, and we know the toes are the last kind of 10 kingdoms, etc. But something happened just before the 10 kingdoms came into play. They were starting to try to do the mixing, but it will not last and it will be brittle. That's a bold statement. It's something that we can kind of look into deeper later on. But what I wanted to show you through all this video, guys, is that giants were definitely there. There is too much to refute. There is too much reference in scripture to think it couldn't have been there. When we look at the story of David and Goliath, we know he was kind of huge as well, and his brothers, they were known to be in the Philistines, they were known to be huge in stature. But this opens up kind of the exact violation of what these guys were doing in Noah's time, mixing all types of stuff, whether it be all flesh, because God said it was all flesh that was corrupted, it wasn't just man. So they started doing all types of kind of weird stuff with animals, etc. Guys, this is where most of the kind of the Hollywood movies come from. Scripture, there's enough there to make movies on, to get the imagination and detail from scripture. But we see that there's enough clearly that the days of Noah that Christ spoke about, the specific thing that happened in the days of Noah was the giants and was the sons of God coming into the daughters of men, this mingling of seed to make a hybrid to try rooting. At that stage it was to make sure that the Messiah wouldn't come, but God's plan still came about. The end, it's to make sure that there's as many people that will be cut off from the promises of God into the new kingdom by mixing and the mixing of breeding. Just a little update, guys. Remember, God is always in control. Keep the faith.